The first day of a Disney vacation can set the tone for the rest of it. Do you arrive early and hit the parks immediately, or do you plan for a day that gives you downtime from all of the travel?
Welcome to Always Planning Disney, where planning is half the fun. I'm Cheryl.
I'm Melissa.
And on this channel, we talk through all of the details that go into making our vacations magical.
So when we talk about the first day, I really want to compare our plan to what actually happened. I know that our plan for the first day, we knew that we were going to fly in and we would arrive around 11:30, stop at the resort and run straight to Hollywood Studios. We have opened with Hollywood Studios a few times and we were planning on doing the same thing, hoping to score some quick service in Toy Story Land. I think we were aiming for Woody's Lunchbox. And then we'd actually get to see Toy Story Land for real. When we were there in 2018, it was not yet open, but they were building it. And so I feel like the cement was down with the footprints and the Tinker Toys were laid out. But other than that, it was kind of empty. So we were really looking forward to seeing that. We knew that we were going to skip the majority of Galaxy's Edge because it was so new and Rise of the Resistance was new and we weren't going to mess with it. We figured next trip we would really get into it. So our plan was to arrive, get some food, explore. Jack and I were going to go on Toy Story Mania while Ray and Maddie did Star Tours and Rock and Roller Coaster. We'd all meet up for Lightning McQueen's Racing Academy. And then we would do our typical Disney plan, which is walk around and do whatever speaks to us for the rest of the day. We did have a reservation for 50's Primetime Cafe for dinner, which we have done for the last 3 trips. And that was a definite part of our plan for the first day. And already listing this, knowing that it's coming off of a 2.5-hour flight, is exhausting. And I think it definitely was.
I'm tired for you.
I know. We knew we were going to end the night seeing Fantasmic with you and your husband, which was really one of the highlights of that day. And I don't know if you remember, but at the end of Fantasmic, Jack was like, oh, great, I get to go to sleep now. It was a long day. And we had all of that planned, and half of that wasn't even a plan. It was just, let's walk around. So a lot packed in on that first day. What were you planning on doing your first day?
We had a very different arrival day from you, but I'm still exhausted looking back on it. So our plan was I had booked a mid to late morning direct flight in the hopes that our son would nap on the plane. It was his first flight ever, and we didn't know what to expect. So all I thought was, I don't want any layovers in case he's terrified of takeoff or landing. And I'm going to try to make this his nap time if I can. So that was my goal there, get him to nap on the plane. And then I figured we would grab a snack or maybe even some lunch at the Orlando airport before we caught the Magical Express to Jumbo House, and we would get to our resort 3:30ish in the afternoon. We'd get settled into our room. We would let our son burn off some energy either at the pool or at the resort playground because he would have been sitting all day long, which is obviously not what he normally does. And then we were going to split off. So this was a trip with my folks. They were going to head into Epcot so that they could see the nighttime show there because we all really love it, but it wasn't going to work out with our schedule this trip with a small child to see it. So they were going to split off, go to Epcot. And then we didn't want to completely overstimulate our not quite 3-year-old by going straight into the parks after his first time with air travel. So he had never been in an airport. He had never been on an airplane. Just a Disney resort, I feel, is a lot of stimulation. So we thought that's a lot going on in a very young brain. We figured we would go to Disney Springs instead. I had a couple of souvenirs that I really wanted to get there, which you can learn about in our souvenir episode. And then we were going to grab a quick service dinner. We had a few different options for that we were just going to kind of see what we felt like. And then head back to the hotel for an 8 o'clock bedtime for our son and an early bedtime for us as well, because we were going to be up early the next morning so we could rope drop at Hollywood Studios. That was the plan. How did your first day actually go?
So our first day, and I want to say, starting with when we left Detroit to fly to Orlando, the flight was great. Like, it left on time, arrived on time. There were no issues with it whatsoever. My kids fly great. However, it was our first time flying Spirit as a family, and my children have only ever flown Delta, and they were not fans when they walked on that plane, especially the plane that we took to Orlando, because it was very bare bones. Like the seats were metal frames. There wasn't even like a pocket on the back of the seats. So my kids were completely freaked out that I was making them fly Spirit, but they got over that. And the flight was lovely. We had originally planned to stop at the resort and then go straight to Hollywood Studios and eat there, but everybody was starving. So we just ended up grabbing a big thing of chicken strips and fries from the cafeteria at Pop Century, and we ate them on the Skyliner into Hollywood Studios. We had some of those fast passes booked where we split up with adventure seekers on one side and me and Jack on the other. But as it turns out, everybody wanted to do the calmer stuff with Jack and I. So we did Toy Story Mania alone, and my daughter was mad that I left her off of that. And then the plan that we had for all of us to go to Lightning McQueen's Racing Academy, my son ended up being terrified of it. He does not like a lot of things at Disney that are big and loud and move and, you know, spray mist on you. Small World is his favorite, and that's about his upper level of excitement for Disney rides. But I figured it's Lightning McQueen, it's from Cars. He'll love it. But I think he was terrified that that car would like come off the stage or there would be smoke or something. So he ended up being terrified of that attraction. And I think we had to sneak in and out the back door maybe 6 times throughout the entire show. In the past, Hollywood Studios had been leisurely enough for us that so much of it is just random strolling, looking around, maybe popping into something, that it's an okay start. It's not too intense for us. And this was also true on this trip. We were able to do everything we wanted to do, knowing we were skipping Galaxy's Edge. So we were able to do all the things we wanted. Nobody left feeling like they had missed out on something. Our 50s Primetime Cafe reservation was lovely as always. We live for it. We love it there. As you know from when we talked about Pop Century, we really like 50s theming. And so this restaurant's a perfect fit for us. We always have fun when we are there. And we got out just in time to go see Fantasmic with you. And it was the most crowded I have ever seen it. Ever. And that's when I knew that the crowd prediction calendar I used to book these dates was way off, and this was not going to be a slow time at Disney. The doom set in a little bit when I realized how many people were there. But overall, our first day went mostly to plan, just a couple minor disappointments in terms of Toy Story Mania, and of course being frightened by a car that my son otherwise loves seeing on the screen. How did your first day end up going?
It went pretty well. Our son had an amazing first flight. He ate snacks and watched Disney Junior on the iPad the entire way, but he didn't nap at all. He was way too excited to have, we don't normally let him watch, 3 hours of TV in a row while eating M&Ms. So that was very exciting for him. He was not about to give that up in order to nap. Understandable. But at that age, he used to be a wreck on the rare days that he didn't nap. So I spent the entire rest of the day worried, like, when is this all gonna go down? And it didn't. He actually did really well the entire day, even though he didn't get a nap on the plane. And that was true for the rest of the trip. A lot of the other days of the trip, he didn't get a nap. And he just powered through for Disney, so it worked out. Our room wasn't ready when we got there. We were kind of hoping it would be, because we were in sort of that mid-afternoon time where it could be ready by then, but it's not quite the time that they guarantee it. It wasn't quite ready, so we dragged our luggage down to the Mara, which is the quick service location, and we ate some great food by the pool. So that was a lovely experience. And by the time we finished eating, our room was ready, so we could go and get kind of settled in there. We had found out just a few days before our trip that my aunt was going to be at Disney on our arrival day. And she lives in another state, so I only see her maybe once a year. And she just happened to be tagging along on her husband's work trip, and she was just hanging out by the pool, going shopping, having herself a nice relaxing time. So she met us at our resort, and she hung out with us while our son was splashing around in the little kiddie wading pool. So that was really nice. We were able to catch up with her for a bit, and then she came along with us to Disney Springs. She helped me pick up my tiara that I talked about before, and she came along with us to dinner too. So it turned out to be a really nice opportunity to kind of bond with her, because that side of my family is really big. I don't normally get to talk to her one-on-one. So it was like a weird thing to do on a Disney vacation, but it was so nice. We did find that finding something to eat at Disney Springs was a total mess, and we should have done a little bit more planning for that. We had a few ideas of where we might want to get something, of restaurants that we heard were good and had the kind of food that we like at Disney Springs. But all of the lines were so long when we were there. I don't think we were anticipating that on, I think it was a Tuesday night. We just didn't really expect it to be that crazy busy. And we had a very hungry and fairly tired kid with us. So it all felt like, oh my gosh, we need to find some food right now. So we picked up chicken guy for him because he's a very picky eater. So chicken is perfect. And then we actually went to the Polite Pig to sit down and get a meal for my husband and I. And the Polite Pig was actually one of my favorite meals that trip. It was delicious. They have a bar. I definitely needed a gin and tonic after that travel day. So that was really nice and refreshing. It was pretty hot that day too. So that wound up being perfect. And then our son was completely Disney tired. He fell asleep on the bus back, and he didn't wake up till the next morning. Like, we got him all the way up to our room and into bed. Didn't even flutter his little eyes.
Oh. One of the things I forgot on our first day that we had planned for that also went off without a hitch is we order groceries to the room.
Oh,
So
yeah, us too.
I usually make the list when I'm on the plane, and as soon as we land, I send it through and have everything delivered. And that went off without a hitch for our arrival day, which is great. Our stroller rental, we picked up at the airport, and that also went very, very well. And I should have looked this up prior to this video, but of the two main stroller rental places, one of them you pick up right by Magical Express, and one of them is on the total opposite end of the airport. So it's nice to know. We saw some frustrated parents who realized they had to walk all the way to the opposite end of the Orlando airport to pick up their stroller. It's nice ahead of time if you'll be making that walk or not. Even though Magical Express is no more, I'm sure there is some sort of bus that will be leaving from the airport to go to Disney. But our stroller rental went very well, as did grocery ordering. So really the only blips in that first day would be perhaps that we were too exhausted, and we should have planned for a rest day looking back on it. Also, we probably won't be doing Hollywood Studios for the first day anyway, because we want to be able to try to get in those boarding groups. So even if we chose to do a park first day, it's not going to work for us because we wouldn't even make the 1 o'clock shot probably. Flying in, even landing around noon, there's no way. Also, the fast pass system and the way that it works with the booking days out meant that we didn't get a fast pass for Slinky Dog Dash, which was a major disappointment. We really would have liked to go on that, but the standby was so long, and we didn't have that much time in the park because we were only there for a partial day. So Hollywood Studios is definitely getting upgraded so that we can spend more time there now that there's so much more that we want to do. I also learned that no matter what, I will book all of us fast passes for even what I think might be the lamest of rides. We won't split up into groups like that anymore. And I also realized on this last trip, and my family might disown me for saying this, but I could be fine just getting a cocktail at the 50s Primetime Cafe lounge in that waiting area. I don't necessarily need to have the full dinner there. I get enough of the feel from that lounge. It's still, it gives, I don't know, I get to see all of the theming. It's a great place to sit. The drinks are nothing exciting, but they're good enough. Just in case we wanted to eat somewhere else, I could cut that as long as we got to go in for the drink. I think it would give me my fill of 50s Primetime Cafe. But the big takeaway is probably no more direct departs after landing. It's exhausting, and it's also risky should that flight not take off on time, and you end up landing later than expected. So I think we will do something other than a park day on our first day looking back.
Us too. So we realized that going straight to the parks is not only too much for a small child, it's too much for us. So we thought this was sort of a one trip with a small child. We'll do things differently this time. No, travel is exhausting for us, and even trying to fit in that trip to Disney Springs felt like too much. So it was our only option last trip, aside from either skipping Disney Springs altogether or sacrificing some park time in order to get over there. So we felt like it was our only chance to get there. So we did it last time. It worked for us last time. But next trip, I think we will try to keep arrival day to just the resort. Although I have a caveat, I guess. If we are walking distance to either Epcot or Disney Springs, we might pop into one of those places for dinner, just because such good reservation options right there. That would be hard to resist. But that would also take care, having just a resort day on arrival day would take care of the issue that we had last trip, where we were staying at this amazing resort with all of this stuff to do, beautiful theming, and we felt like we didn't take the time to fully appreciate it. If we have a resort day as that first partial day of the trip, then I think we'll feel more like, yes, we have really enjoyed the resort that we decided to stay at.
That's a really good point. And I know that for this trip, we're looking at staying at resorts where you would want to spend more time there. And so I think that just supports the idea of not going directly to a park. There are some people I travel with who might be sad to let that go because they like to land and run immediately onto a ride. But I think that we are going to get away from that. It will also allow us to get a later flight. And we won't have to wake up so early on that first travel day. We are risers.
You could also consider, because as you add on more days to your trip, each day gets less and less expensive to add on, right? So maybe you get the tickets, and if your husband feels like running into the park and doing a ride or something, and you want to stay back at the hotel at the pool, like you guys could split up if you wanted to, and it really wouldn't be a big additional expense.
That's a really good idea. When I price those tickets out, I'll have to see what that one additional day costs, because then we could kind of follow our individual desires on that first Disney day.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for tuning in. Let us know in the comments what you do on your first Disney World day. And remember to like and subscribe to plan along with us.